What is going on, fitness coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives Make Money Online Trainer podcast. So, guys, today we're going to be having a conversation about perseverance. Now, I don't know how many of you guys know this guy or me, so why don't we do a quick 30 to 60-second intro of each other to each other's audiences?
Cool. You go ahead and start.
Me first?
Yeah.
All right. I'm handsome, dark-skinned. I've got a beard. I live in Kelowna. I'm a business coach, and mindset and personal psychology is probably my favorite topic.
Well, I am all of that, just better. I am handsome, white, have a beard. I'm a business coach. I love talking about human performance, spirituality, and leadership. Those are my three things. I'm a culture creator, I'm a wealth creator, and I'm pretty awesome.
Cool. I love that.
Great.
So Nick and I came together and we decided we were going to have a conversation today, and we were trying to figure out what exactly we could talk about. And the question that Nick asked me was, can you teach perseverance? Now, before we get into this, can you give me a little bit of a backstory of like why this is resonating with you right now?
Sure. Yeah. So my big thing with us is we track data. Like my number one goal to solve is client success, client performance, human performance. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to solve. If you solve that, you'll solve every other problem inside of business, in my opinion. Can we get people to perform? And so we have the data, and people inside of our community, the ones who show up actively on calls, get on group calls, ask questions, go execute, come back for reviews week after week, make over 500% more revenue than the ones who come into the community or the program and they're not as active. And so the gap, we're just trying to figure out what is going on here. And I think I've watered it down to a lack of perseverance. It's people not wanting to get out of their routines to show up on a 1-hour call, even though they've invested in a 1-year program.
Yeah.
And they expect their business to grow. And so there's a lack of perseverance, and there's an over leverage of entitlement going on right now inside of, well, the world, but definitely in the entrepreneurship space. So we're trying to figure out, how do we teach somebody perseverance? Because if you teach perseverance, by nature, you start to get rid of entitlement.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from.
So I want to deep dive into this because I think that perseverance, like if I think about my own story, and I think that anybody that's been through an incredible amount of adversity, honestly, I feel like has an advantage, because going through adversity and then coming through on the other side of it, automatically you get perseverance. So sometimes you just get thrown into situations and you're forced to persevere. Like you don't have a choice. You just have to endure. And so I feel like I was lucky enough to have that younger. So like I was used to chaos in my life. I was used to chaos in my environment, and I was used to just like holding strong. But I think that for a lot of people that didn't have maybe a chaotic upbringing, or don't have that like trauma, or they haven't been through a major adversity, I think that those people tend to be the ones that struggle with perseverance because they've never actually dealt with like adversity.
Yep.
You know?
No, 100%. I mean, there's fight, flight, freeze. Those are our responses when something extremely stressful comes up. Am I going to lean in and fight? Am I going to lean around and run, or am I going to freeze because I don't know what to do? So those are usually our three physiological responses when there's stress present. And most people who come from backgrounds like us, it's like, you quote unquote got that dog in you.
Yeah.
And so when you learn chaos kind of becomes home. It becomes safe. It doesn't really throw you off anymore. It's just kind of like, oh, everything's going to shit. That's another Monday for me. Let's do this. And so then you have people who want to be an entrepreneur who never had to quote unquote work hard or work for themselves. They only know how to work under the guidance of other people. So something that you also see when people, I'm sure you probably get this too, is when people come into PT Dom and they no longer work for a gym or somebody else and they start working for themselves, they fucking slack.
Yeah.
And I go, so you're telling me you invested in a program to build your business and your dream, and yet you put more time, work, and effort in when you were building somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Yeah. So when I think about the idea of perseverance, because perseverance is something that I have without trying. And that's not me like trying to like boast or brag.
I'm with you.
I do that without trying.
Yep.
And so when I think about, so then I start like reverse engineering, and I'm like, okay, why am I persevering like without even trying? For me, it comes down to two things. Number one is I think it's a ridiculous level of self-belief. Like, so I see somebody that's at a higher level than me, like Keaton the Muscle Hoskins or Gary Vaynerchuk or Alex Hormozy or Jeremy Lee Minor, or any of these guys that are like at an elite level. And I literally look at them and I'm like, there's no reason that can't be me. So it's a ridiculous level of self-belief. And number two, I think it's being super clear on the vision, like super, super clear on the vision, and like having the faith of like, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly where I want to go. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there.
So I think something that I want to piggyback off of that you said is you have the ability to look at Gary V and say, if he can do it, I can. But you also have the vision, which means you see him and you also understand the long-term focus of achieving what he's achieved.
Yep.
And so most people will look at somebody like Gary, or even somebody just like you, and go, what is Brian doing right now in his business, in his life, and his routine? And I need to be doing all of that right now. And if I
Yep.
can't do all of that right now, I'm not going to be like Brian.
Yep.
And people are looking at your year 10 in their year 1 saying,
Yep.
I need to do year 10 right now. It's like, no, you need to do what I was doing when I was in year 1
Yep.
and stop focusing on what I'm doing in my life right now. And that's where people fuck themselves up because you can see Gary Vee, he's got this massive content team and all this high quality, he's speaking on stages and he's posting 15 pieces of content a day. And people go, well, if I want to be like Gary Vee, I need to post 15 pieces of content a day. It's like, no, you need to get really good at posting 1 piece of content a week.
Yeah.
And then get really good at posting 2 pieces of content a week. And you actually need to get comfortable speaking on camera. And you need to learn how to deal with people talking shit about you. And you need to learn about how to accept judgment that doesn't align with how you see yourself. And there's all of these steps that people miss because they're trying to rush to year 20 while they're still in year 1. And then they end up not doing anything.
Well, I think there's 2 things I want to piggyback off of that because I agree. I think thing number 1 is when you're looking up to somebody, whether that be a mentor or like a figure, like, because for me, Gary Vaynerchuk is not a mentor, he's a figure. Like I've never met him, had a conversation with him, even he's never actually mentored me, but because he exists, he's a figure that I aspire to. Yeah. So when you're looking up to a figure or a mentor or somebody that you can like strive towards, I feel like the best way to look at that is this is the level that I'm going to get to. Yeah. That's how I view it. So as an example, I went down to speak at Brad Lee's event. This was a couple months ago. And when I went to his studio, he's got his like own custom studio. He's got like, he literally hosts private events in his building and he has like all these like bougie office chairs. It's just like the most premium experience. He's got a podcast studio upstairs that's like, you don't even know how much money that thing cost. It was fucking crazy. But I saw it and I wasn't like, oh my God, like my podcast studio sucks ass. And I can never record a podcast looking like I do because Brad has this. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. Like it might take me 1 year. It might take me 2 years. It might take me 5 years, but I will have this. And so it's almost like seeing it gave me the ability to be like, okay, this can happen for me. But then again, I've got to come back to my own process. I'm like, okay, what am I doing right now? How can I make my process better? So right now, I told you I'm building a podcast studio in my fucking room because I saw Brad's and I was like, that's fucking dope. I don't have that. I want to have that. So how can I use that inspiration to advance my life 1 step forward? And I think that people lack perseverance and they lack the ability to like see things through because they don't actually believe they're going to get the thing. Like for me, I believe that I'm going to get the thing. So like I will do whatever is necessary to get the thing.
You know, it's interesting. I just had a sales call while I was walking. Yeah. And I was talking to him because my sales rep didn't close him. So I said, Spike him over to me. I'll have a conversation with him, see what's up. Yeah. And I talked to this guy and I said, well, what needs to be true in order for you to work with us? And he said, I would need to know that I can get an immediate result. And I said, well, then you're never going to sign up for anyone. Yeah. What are you talking about? You know, and so we get into this perseverance. And that's why I think entitlement is actually the opposite side of the coin. Because perseverance is, I'm going to do this. I don't care how long it takes. Entitlement is, I'm going to do this. And if I don't get an immediate dopamine hit, I'm going to quit because it's not for me. And now we have the hyper spiritual culture that has come in to say, oh, if there's resistance on your path, then it's not your path. And you need to chase things that feel good. And
I literally talked about this yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, it's literally my podcast yesterday.
It's not in alignment with me because it's hard. And it's like, well, then wealth isn't in alignment with you. Yeah. Because wealth is something that you become. It's not something that you achieve. It's not something that you get to. Wealth is an energy. It is something that it is a person. It is a consciousness level that you reach. And you have to do that through unlearning and shedding layers of yourself. And we don't do that without perseverance. The shedding of layers and the evolving of your identity is extremely tumultuous. Yeah. And you cannot walk that path without perseverance. And so how do we get people to shift into more of that delayed onset, delayed gratificative space? And we're in the Amazon Prime world. Yeah. We're in the 1-click order, same day delivery stuff. And now people think that that's how their growth, their evolution, their wealth, their business, anything that they want is going to come. And the ones who are patient and are just here saying, this is what I'm going to do today because I actually eat, sleep, breathe, and love this shit. Yeah. And everything else is going to take care of itself as long as I just keep showing the fuck up how I want to serve the world. Those are the ones that are winning. Yeah. Everyone losing is going, well, you told me to do this new social media strategy. I did it for 3 days and nobody commented. And I'm like, 3 days? Yeah. Do it for 3 years. Yeah. And then complain. Yeah. So there's just this massive gap of, well, I should be there already because I'm trying hard.
Yeah, I want to jump in and hit this point super fucking hard because everybody that's listening to this that wants to be an entrepreneur, that wants to be successful, that wants to have their own thing needs to understand this one fucking idea. Okay. When you're working on your shit and you're advancing your coaching business and you want to make $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 a month, you want to have the financial freedom, you want to be able to pay off your debt, you want to be able to do all of the amazing things that you've never had the ability to do in your fucking life. You have to understand that achieving that thing is something that only 5% of people will ever do. And the reason that only 5% of people will ever reach that level is not because people are not capable or qualified or worthy of it. The only reason that 5% of people will achieve success while the other 95% stay in the exact same place is because the 5% of people made the decision to walk through the door.
Yep.
It's literally that fucking simple.
Well, and like to even say that, it's like, listen to what Brian just said. The gap that you need to fill in order to actually be successful in 2024 is so fucking small. It is so small. Everybody is lazy. Everybody is fighting about their gender. Everybody is fighting about all of these things that don't fucking matter. And working even minusculely hard is obsessive to people now.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you wake up at 5 a.m. and you do 2 hours of work uninterrupted with your phone in another room, with your phone in another fucking room, if you do 2 hours of work a day, you are ahead of 97% of people on the planet right now.
There's a quote that I heard in a video, and it was like, if you do 2 hours a day, every day, uninterrupted study on one particular subject, in 1 year, you'll be a national expert, a national level expert. If you do 2 hours a day, every day, for 1 year of like a certain skill, you'll be a national level. Like imagine doing 2 hours of boxing every day, 5 days a week. So by the end of the year, you'd be fucking gangster. So like, I think that, again, let's come back to this conversation of, I think the only way to understand like why perseverance is so important is, and to really like grasp the concept of why you need to do it now is, I think everyone needs to zoom out for a sec. And I don't just want to zoom out and look at like, because I'll be honest, growing my social media was a bitch. Like you guys see me popping off now. I'm fucking really grateful. It was a bitch. I was doing 2 to 3 videos a day, every day, that were all getting like 500 to 1,000 views. Everything Cole posts is going viral. And I'm like, fuck you, bro. It was a bitch. But I was like, I'm going to do this every single day. I'm not going to miss. I'm going to stay consistent. I'm going to stay resilient because I was zooming out. And here's what zooming out looks like. A lot of people zoom out to look at their goals, right? They zoom out to be like, you know, I want to hit 10K, I want to hit 50K, I want to hit 100K in the next X time. But people don't zoom out and magnify what happens if they don't take action. So for me, it's like, for those of you guys that are struggling to stay consistent, struggling to stay motivated, struggling to post on social media, you're questioning whether or not you're going to make it. I want you to zoom out and I want you to imagine that you go down the pathway of inconsistency for the next 12 to 24 months. And your life doesn't progressively get better, it progressively gets worse. Because not only are you staying in the same place, but you know that you're being fucking lazy. You know that you're not going all in. You know that you're not pushing yourself. You know that you're not challenging yourself. And as a result, you have a hard time looking at yourself in the mirror. But not only that, for those of you guys that have significant others, you are literally letting your significant other down because you're complaining and you're not doing the fucking work. You got people that are counting on you. Maybe you got a daughter or a mom that you're supposed to be taking care of, and you're not taking care of them because you're too fucking lazy to post on social media because it's just not working for you. I think about like, I go deep. I'm like, if I had to give up this house because I like wasn't willing to put in the work, like that's what I think about when I don't want to post. I imagine walking up to Kirsten and being like, sorry, babe, I'm a bitch. Like I can't fucking post on social media because I'm too fucking busy. Like that idea sounds ridiculous. And I keep that perspective of not only what I want, but what happens if I don't do the actions that are going to get me closer to what I want. And that like thought literally terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, and I think that thought that terrifies you because it's like, you know, where we came from. Like I've lived the other side of it, and now I have this side of it, and like, why the fuck would I go back? I know that the life that I have is just predicated on the promises that I've kept to myself every day. So which means if I lose my life, my life's going backwards. The only thing I need to solve is, why am I not keeping the promises that I make to myself? And now the flip side of what Brian just said, which everything you said was 100% correct, and for lack of a better way to say this, that I would consider the scare straight method for entrepreneurship, right? Like if you don't fucking do this, you're going to lose your life. You're going to lose this. And now we have the other side of people where not everybody can respond to being scared straight. Some people need to actually be loved and healed in order to perform. And that's, again, like this interesting balancing dichotomy that I've been trying to solve for people. And a lot of times people aren't taking action or taking care of their business or taking care of themselves because they're lacking love for themselves. When you love things, you take care of them. Like when you love a kid, you're doing everything that you can possible to take care of that kid, yet you won't grow your business so that you can give that kid everything that they want. Why? Because your business is a reflection of you. Your business is an extension of who you are. Your business is your DNA. Your business is a replication of your soul into the world. And so if I am lacking in love for myself and care for myself, I will not have that love and care for my business. So if I have a block in my business, I have a block somewhere inside of myself. And the second that we can start looking this way when it comes to shit that we're not doing in our business, everything explodes for an entrepreneur every time.
That's an interesting perspective. I want to explore that. So if that's the case, if I don't love myself and I'm aware that I don't love myself and that's why I'm not doing what's necessary to achieve success, then what are the things that you need to do to develop self-love? Like how does self-love get developed?
Sure. Let me ask you this. Why do you love Kirsten?
I fucking threw me on the spot. Goddamn. I love her because she's consistent. I love her because
Stop.
What?
You love her because why?
Because she's consistent.
Got it. That's it. Because she's consistent, what does that instill in her for you?
Trust.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So love cannot exist without trust.
Yeah.
So if I'm lacking love in myself, it's because there's a part of me that I don't trust. Maybe I did something wrong in my past.
Yeah.
Maybe there's things that I keep saying I'm going to do and then I don't do. And I start to lose trust in myself. And it is so fucking hard to love somebody and not trust them. It's almost impossible because love and trust have to coexist for the creative energy of love to actually
That's
happen.
cool. So if you don't have love and you're having a hard time finding love, find trust, because if you can find trust, love will follow.
Yes. So you can't find love out there because you don't find love in here. And you can't find love in here because you don't trust yourself, because you're not keeping promises to yourself. You're treating yourself fucking awful.
Yeah.
You're not doing the things you say you want to do, and then you're beating yourself up for it. That's not what you do to people that you love.
Yeah. And so this comes back to the initial conversation that we had, which is fucking fantastic, because one of the initial conversations that you had was like, if you guys see what I do on social media, like I post 3 times a day, every day, go live 5 times a week on social media. Like I'm a fucking machine. And so if you look at what I'm doing and you're like, I must do those things if I want the same things Brian has. And you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 3 times a day, every day. I'm going live, not going to miss, watch me.
Yeah.
And then you do that for like a week. And then you realize, holy fuck, this guy's like actually like a psychopath. Like, but I've just conditioned myself to this level. That's besides the point. But what matters is that you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it. And now, even if you only post twice a day, which is still obnoxiously a lot, even if you only post twice a day, you're like, I'm a failure. I'm a failure, because you're not keeping promises to yourself. You're saying you're going to do something and you don't do it, which is causing you to break trust with yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, you can't love yourself.
There you go. The loop has been finished.
I like that.
And so people look at you and go, okay, I need to change my life. I need to go 5 lives a day, 3 posts a day, and they're not even posting 1 a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just completely setting yourself up. What you're doing is you're hyper swinging the pendulum into a promise that you know you can't keep, because you're obsessed with finding ways to tell yourself that you can't do things. You keep searching for ways to hate yourself. You keep searching for ways to punish yourself for not being perfect. So if you can create these super bodacious goals that you know damn well that you cannot hit at your current state, well, now you've given yourself another reason to prove to yourself that you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of success, and now you hate yourself even more. So the question to ask is, why am I obsessed with finding ways to hate myself? What part of me am I continuously neglecting or not accepting that is continuously showing its face every time I fail? And instead of meeting it with love, healing, and understanding, I'm meeting it with frustration, and I'm telling it how much I hate it and how upset at myself I am. So you look at this like inner child complex. And really, there's a massive part of you that's afraid to be seen, that needs to be loved, that needs to be heard. So I always take this ideation of it. Let's say that, like, for your inner child, let's say a 6-year-old boy walked up to you right now when you went to do something big, and he went, Brian, I'm so scared right now. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm going to be seen. I don't think anybody loves me. And he's crying. And you go, God, what the fuck is wrong with you? Every single day I try to do this, you come up with the same bullshit. I'm sick of this. Why can't you just do this? Is that an effective way to parent a child?
Definitely not.
And yet that's what we do to ourselves every single day. And we wonder why we don't have love, we don't have trust, and we don't execute.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, so when it comes to like the inner child stuff, that's obviously something that's a little bit, I don't really talk about in my content, but I think that the work needs to get done regardless of whether or not it's in the dark or in the light. because you do a lot of the work in the light in the sense of like, you're like very open with exactly like what's going on and like healing your traumas, etc. I do that work too, but I just do it in the dark. Like I'm like a fucking silent lion, like me and you were talking about the other day. I'm silent. I'm doing my shit. But what I mean is like, dude, there was a period in my life, and I don't know if me and you have talked about this, where Kirsten and I were together. We were super happy, and I was literally doing things to sabotage it.
Yep.
Like I was literally like, I was going out and I was fucking getting absolutely blackout and then finding drugs.
Yep.
And then I was like entertaining the idea of ending the relationship.
Yep.
And I was like finding ways to make myself miserable. This was like back in 2020 when we first got together. Like I was literally like finding ways to fuck it up because I'm like, we were so happy and I was so good. And I was like, I like needed to fuck it up. I was like, I have to fuck this up for this to feel fucking normal.
Yep.
And so after, 3 to 5 months of playing mind games with myself and being like, I could lose the person that I love if I don't solve the problem, I made the commitment that I was going to solve the fucking problem. I started going to therapy literally every single week. I went every single week for 6 months. I never fucking missed. Started doing hypnosis every 2 weeks to like cleanse my mind. And a lot of the work that we did is so funny because I don't really talk about it that openly, but a lot of the work that we did was like going back to talk to my mom when she kicked me out when I was 8. It was like going back to like visit the version of me that felt neglected and like loving that version of me. Dude, there was a hypnosis. I just want to tell you this really quick. There was a hypnosis where the girl took me back to like meet my older self. It was like me when I was like 9, 10, 11 years old. And she's like, what do you see? And I was like, I literally see a skeleton.
Wow.
It was just a skeleton. It was just like an empty vessel. I just felt like I was just like, I didn't love that version of myself. I literally like, I almost like pretended he was dead. I'm like, I don't identify with this version of myself. And so like, it was the most powerful thing because I just sat there and she's like, I want you to love that version of yourself back to life. And I just like, literally was like in my hypnosis, just like transmitting all this love into like the older version of myself, the 9, 10, 11-year-old version of myself. And then he like came to life and he like gave me a hug and it was like, it was the craziest. Fucking, I got chills. I got chills talking about it.
That's a fucking incredible story.
But that's like, you either do the work in the dark or in the light, but it needs to get done.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about light versus dark real quick now, is because I'm assuming everybody who follows me is trying to build wealth.
Yeah.
Assuming the same for you. And wealth, by definition, is the path of light. Wealth cannot exist in shadow. It cannot exist. Light is the truth. Shadow is deceit. It's lie. It's ego.
I literally had a conversation with this the other day because when darkness is around, it's not an actual principle because as soon as light comes, darkness goes away.
Yeah.
Light's a principle, darkness is not.
Well, so when we're talking about people who are saying, oh, I want to build my business, I want to serve the world, I want to get wealthy, and then they can't even show up on social media and speak. You're hiding in shadow and you think wealth is going to find you. It can't. Wealth is the truth. It's the absolute truth. So if you are not owning parts of your truth, or you're withholding and you're hiding them because you're ashamed of them, because you haven't loved them, healed them, integrated them, and overcame them so that you no longer personally identify with them in the moment. I still have a personal attachment to every version of me that I've been. I was doing the best that I could at the consciousness level that I had in that time. And so I was just trying to get my needs met in the only way I knew how. For me to kill off that version of me and say they're dead to me is for me to pull part of me into the shadow, and I will not be able to maintain wealth. I have to heal and integrate so that I don't personally identify with who I was 3 years ago, but he's still a part of me. He still led me to exactly who I am today. So if I am withholding my truth from the world, if I'm not speaking about the things that I've done, if I'm not sharing my story, if I'm not fully fucking embodied in my truth, wealth will continue to evade me. I will continuously live my life in the shadow of deceit, of lies, of half-truths. And I will always feel like I'm just right there, I'm almost there and I just can't break through and something's holding me back and I don't know what it is. And they'll sign up for your program and then they'll be in 6 months and they go, Brian's program didn't fucking work. And then they'll come into my program and they'll be in for 3 months, go, Nick's program didn't fucking work. And they'll keep jumping around because the last thing, it's like, how many fucking different coaches, how many different programs, how many different podcasts and books can there actually fucking be? How many of those can you actually fucking do before you stop running and realize that it's you?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. So I love that conversation. And when I think about the idea, because like one of the things I say frequently is I'm like, the old version of you needs to die. And I believe that. And I'll talk about that in a second. And I'm like, the old version of you needs to die. And I want to talk about like just an alternative perspective to what you're saying. Because I agree with everything you're saying. And there's one part of it that's like, I feel like I don't mean the old version of you needs to die as in like the 8-year-old version of Brian was a piece of shit that was like a fucking loser, you know? But what I mean is that all of the habits, the rituals, the mindsets, the beliefs, the behaviors that I was doing as drug addict Brian cannot exist in this consciousness.
Right. An identity dissolve.
Yeah,
Is
so-
basically what you're
Yeah, so
experiencing.
that
Yeah.
identity thing needs to die. But I think that the reason I want to hammer this point for a second is because in the world of spirituality, and this bothers the fuck out of me, in the world of spirituality, there's so many people that are like, well, like, I'm really trying to embrace my true self.
Oh,
And my
God.
true self is telling me that posting on social media more than 3 times a week is way too much for my energetic balance.
Oh,
And
don't even get me fucking. I will go down this rabbit hole so hard right now.
like,
Oh
but
my
like, dude,
God.
it's true. That's people fucking do this. It blows my fucking mind. And then they're wondering, they're like, why am I broke? Why am I struggling? And then they're posting on social media. Every time I post, I feel like I'm in alignment and I'm healed and I'm sharing this message. And then they're fucking broke. They're like broke. And so before you go, because I know you're heated.
Oh my
Before
God.
you go,
Bubbling up
before
right
you
now.
go, before you go,
Let me in, coach.
I think that it's super fucking important to understand that yes, you need to love, like all versions of you need to get love, because even the drug addict version of me, if it wasn't for that dude, I wouldn't be this dude, because the only reason that I show up as consistently, as passionately as I do is I'm so afraid of going back to that motherfucker that I use that as fuel. So I'm thankful. So yes, I need to embrace the old version of me, but I also need to operate based on who I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to operate based on principle. And so, like, yes, embrace your true self and who you became, but then also identify who you want to be. Like, I want to be consistent. I want to be integral. I want to be loyal. And so I need to take the actions that are going to be in alignment with the things that I would want, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels weird, even when I feel resistance. So like, love the old version of you, but like, dude, also operate on principle if you want to be successful.
Yeah. So like the identity shift conversation is one that I have a lot, and I really, really, really fucking love it. And so let's say like you have the identity as this version of you, and let's just call this the drug addict, right?
Yeah.
You have Brian the drug addict, and you go, okay, I'm a drug addict. I don't want to be anymore. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start doing all of these things basically. And so what happens is you start doing new patterns, but they're still governed by your old identity. You're still doing new patterns as the drug addict.
Yep.
You haven't created a new identity that governs those new patterns. So what happens is as the drug addict, you say, I'm going to start doing this instead of drugs. I'm going to start running. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start doing my business. And what happens is as you start doing these, you start to no longer see that identity. You start drifting away from the drug addict identity, but you don't have an identity that you see coming. And so if you start to see the only identity you know yourself as to dissolve in the background, you panic and you sabotage and you go back to it, because as humans, we need an identity in order to survive.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to live for because I don't have anything to live as. So I need to create an identity that I want to become. And then what are those patterns? So now I can map them over. Drug addict, here's everything I do. Multi-millionaire CEO, here's what I do.
Yeah.
Now they're governed by a new identity. So I'm starting to map myself over to a new identity, to a new reality.
Yeah.
And as the old one starts to dissolve and fade, I start to catch glimpses of the new one coming.
And this is why it's important to understand why you need to be not only leaning into resistance every single day, but also understanding that when you think about the transformative process, and Nick talked about this earlier on the podcast, where like it's a tumultuous process was the word that you used.
It's a good word.
The reason that it's tumultuous is because you literally every fucking day you feel this, you're becoming something new.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable every day. It's uncomfortable every day because you're never like the word that I'm using to describe is you're always expanding.
Yes.
And when you're expanding your capacity, it always comes with discomfort.
Yes.
And I think that people view the discomfort that comes with expansion as a negative thing because it feels uncomfortable. It feels resistance. It feels like overwhelm or frustration or whatever. And we attach these labels to the feeling that comes with expansion. And that's why we resist it. But like, dude, every single time I've been going through a massive adversity, on the other side of that adversity was like my biggest blessing.
Yep.
Every single time.
It's a sacrifice.
Every single time.
It's literally a law.
Every single time.
It's a law of alchemy.
Every single time.
Every single
Every
time.
single one.
It's a law of alchemy, the law of equivalent exchange. In order to obtain, you must first lose something of equal value. You must first lose. And people think, well, when I get the thing, then I'll let this go.
Yeah.
No, you actually need to experience a loss that is of equal value to you in the moment of what you're asking for. So you need to trade a life for a new life, a relationship for a new relationship, an identity for a new identity. You have to lose that first in order to get the new thing. That's a law of alchemy. But we have this this undiagnosed God complex. And most people are going to listen to this right now and go, I don't have a God complex. But when we start to say, well, if I make this decision, this is exactly how I want my life to play out. This is exactly what should happen. This is how I want it to go. And it doesn't go that way. We go, oh, that's not for me. It's not supposed to happen this way. And so what we're doing is we're playing God. We're asking God for this massive mountain to be moved for us. And then it moves in a way that we didn't expect it to be moved. And we go, no, 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 that's not what I want. And so we start to play God, and then we start to stay stuck. And nobody can play God like God, to be completely honest. So when you start to walk the path of your truth, your fully unfiltered, unadulterated, entire body, soul truth. And this can look like, I don't love you anymore. This can look like, this business isn't what I want. This can look like, I can't be your friend anymore. This can look like, Mom, all you do is make me feel like shit about myself, and I need you out of my life. This can look like, I know that I am being the worst version of myself right now. When you own that entire fucking truth and you have conviction in it, mountains in your life will move instantaneously. The truth is such a powerful tool. It has the ability to rip everything out of your life instantly that isn't in alignment with you, and immediately bring everything that's in alignment for you. But all we focus on is, well, what am I going to lose when I speak my truth? And it's like, if you actually speak your fucking truth, whatever you quote unquote lose wasn't actually meant for you. And so, yes, sometimes when we walk the path of the truth, there is pain. But I know that if I'm walking a full path of my truth, whatever pain I experience is 100% meant for me to experience in my journey of my expansion. If I lie and I'm in the shadow and I'm deceiving and I'm not speaking my truth, I'm going to feel pain still. And I'm going to have an additional pain of knowing that I didn't say what I was supposed to.
You know, it's funny. And so when I love this. Fuck bars. Fuck bars, bro. When we're able to tell the truth and be 100% honest and realize, like, I haven't been consistent. I don't love this person. I'm not happy at my job. Like, I need to fucking create a new life. When we have these feelings and we start to realize this is the truth and we start to take steps towards making a change, this is where perseverance comes in. We start to make steps towards making a change. It's fucking painful, you guys. It's painful to make change. Like, if you think about the idea of quitting your job, that's painful. That's what paid your bills for the last 5 years. That's what's feeding your family. If you think about the idea of looking at your spouse and being like, I'm not fucking happy and we need to do something about this. Like, that's painful. And in that pain of transformation, this is where you need to have perseverance, because you need to understand that something good is coming for you on the other side of it. Like, you need to know that, like, if you just keep going, if you just keep showing up, if you just keep putting in the work, you will get to where you want to get to. And dude, this is why I'm so grateful that I was an addict, because when I was an addict and I was like overcoming my cocaine addiction, it was like every single day, all I could think about was drugs for a year. Every day. And so I had to just like imagine what my life was going to be like if I was a leader. I had to imagine what my life was going to be like if I was successful. I had to imagine what my life was going to be like if I made it through this addiction, if I got sober, if I got clean, if I got fit, because imagining what my life was going to be like gave me a hope that there were better times that were coming. And that comes from vision. But like, I thought about it so much, bro. It was like I needed to do it because I felt like I was called to it. And then all of the work that I started to do towards getting the thing that I wanted, all of it was like, I was welcoming the work with open arms, because I'm like, I know that every step that I take is getting me one step closer. And every day that I operate is getting me one step closer. And every time I would think about not doing the thing that was going to get me closer, it made me feel sick to my stomach. So I would just keep showing up and keep showing up. And I keep showing up. And it's like leaning into the resistance, leaning into this comfort. And I just like keep going. But I think that the reason, and then I'm going to end this like little rant here. I think the reason that it gets hard for a lot of people is when people get into pain, like, and when they're like, this is hard. This posting on social media is hard. Selling clients is hard. Delivering to my clients is hard. In that moment, they seek comfort. And seeking comfort is Netflix, not posting, drinking with their friends,
drugs, alcohol, sex,
sex, right? They want something to comfort that pain.
It's comfort and dissociation. Like, it's like that same thing. And first of all, fucking phenomenal rant.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's almost like, you know, we look at this, and honestly, a lot of men who come into my community, we do a lot of I do a lot of masculinity healing.
Yeah.
And because that's really tough for men, especially when men come in and they start making a lot of money, it's really easy for them to start fucking a lot of girls.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And there's this massive wound in the feminine with them that they distract themselves from work because it's comforting when a woman desires them sexually. So I actually have a lot of my men come in and do 6 months of celibacy, 6 months of semen retention. And we do a lot of these really challenging things for them to grow as a man, because most men are used to that at least weekly.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And so it's like, now what happens if we stop what you always do to release and completely try to dissociate from your world? What happens if we just put a boundary up for you to stay fully present, keep your energy inside of you, brother, and focus on creating?
Oh, I got chills. That's fucking dope.
What happened?
That's dope.
And it's
like that.
hard.
Yeah.
Most men, and like, I'm sorry if this is a little TMI, but I just think it's a very powerful thing to talk about. Most men, once they're a teenager to wherever they're at now, have probably not gone at least a week.
Yeah.
I would say most have not gone it more than a month without pleasuring themselves in some degree.
Yeah.
And so what happens when we finally block that off and say, hey, let's keep that life force energy in. Let's actually get you to get through the biggest part of discomfort in your entire life, removing the one thing that you always use to completely die off in the moment and have this 2 minutes of just bliss in your life. Let's keep you fucking in the fire for a second. Let's go 6 months. Let's stop worrying about women. Let's stop chasing the things that tell you that you're worthy. Let's figure out how you can make yourself worthy. Let's figure out how you can give all of that to yourself and create with that. Now let's see how your world perception changes. And holy fuck, dude, like, I have some men in my community right now, 2-3 weeks in, going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's so wild to just see how transformative something can be when we're honest with ourselves. Oh, wow, I do that every single week because it's how I distract myself.
Yeah.
Cool, let's stop. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like this empowerment when you catch yourself in the pattern because you're honest with yourself. And then you know, okay, this is going to be challenging, but I'm going to do this because of my devotion to myself, to my growth. And then what you said with like this is my vision, this is what I'm going to do. There's a willingness, the energy of willingness. Because if you're not willing to act, if you weren't actually willing to have the Lambo, to have the mansion, to have the millions, you wouldn't have them. So we need to get am I actually willing to create the life that I say I want? Or am I just saying I want it because that's what society told me that I should want?
Yeah.
You know, and like, by definition, you have the stereotypical life.
Yeah.
Right. You just, and like, I know that you're a grounded individual, like you're very service-based, and that's why I love you so much. But from the outside in, it's like, you know, big business, mansion, Lambo, you have the stereotypical life that everybody goes, oh, okay, well, that must be what I need to have in order to be successful. And if nobody takes a second to bring their energy back to themselves and say, what is my definition of success? Like, what is my definition of wealth? What feels good for me in my life?
Yeah.
And that might not be supercars.
Yeah.
Like, for me, my number one thing for me with wealth is, can I serve the world the way that I want to? Can I have the time to hang out with my friends? And can I just pay for dinner every time my friends go out? I love that. That to me, that's like that's my thing. I just love putting my car down and taking care of my friends so that they can all just keep talking and have a good time. That's wealth for me.
Yeah.
And that's not wealth for everybody else. But if I let the world tell me what success is supposed to mean to me, I will never be who I'm actually meant to be.
Yeah. So I agree. And you know, what's funny is when people look at my life, like I've got all the things, material things that really you could ever want. I realized the other day as I was driving my fucking car, I was like, because I was just had like a super overwhelming week. And I was like, I was at the whim of my schedule. I was just obligated to a bunch of things that I made commitments to. And I literally was driving by myself in my car and I was like, freedom. And Kirsten's like, what?
Oh, you told me this.
I was like, freedom. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, that's my number one core value in life. Like freedom. It's not money. It's not wealth. It's freedom to do what I want with who I want, how I want, on my own timeline. Like I want to be like a fucking Pokemon. Like you can't catch me. I can just do whatever the fuck I want.
So stupid.
That to me is my definition.
I hate that you said that.
Yeah, I love it so much. That's my definition of wealth. It's like freedom, right? So I think that's really important, is to identify what it is that you actually want. Because I think that when people look at like the way that I operate, like I set numbers goals, not because I'm obsessed with money. I set numbers goals because I like to have a measuring tool for my success.
Yeah.
And so if
absolutely.
I say that I'm going to win my fitness competition and then I do win it, then that is a measuring tool for not only my own ability to like see a vision in its completion, but then actually execute on the steps that are necessary to get there. I view the business as the same way.
Mhm.
And so if I'm setting this target of hitting, $1 million a month, which we hit last month, fucking pat on the back. What's up, fist bump? If I'm setting that target and then we hit it, I know that the skill sets that I'm developing that might be intangible, that might not be able to be seen, like leadership and vision and team building and operations and marketing, like these are all intangible skills. I have a measuring tool for that skill set, and that is money. So that's why I focus on that. But I also want to have a conversation with you guys, because I think that Nick talked about viewing success as like, how do I want to view my own success and what's successful for me? I think that when you guys think that, you might think to yourself, well, success to me is hitting $20,000 a month.
Mhm.
And I want to have a conversation because Kirsten and I, when we first started dating, I had the goal, bro, of hitting 100K a month for like a year, 100K a month. And so like every month I was like 100K a month, 100K a month, 100K a month. And she watched me fail for like 6 months straight and just like kept giving me this advice. She's like, B, because I was hitting like 30 to 40 and I was getting so fucking mad at myself, so angry at myself every single time. I was so frustrated. She's like, B, why don't you just set a smaller goal?
Mhm.
And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not a fucking small goal guy. I'm a fucking big goal guy. I'm fucking doing 100K. She's like, why don't you start with 50 and then get to 50? And then once you get to 50, then you can work on, getting a bigger goal. I hated the advice, but I took it. And the first time I hit 50, I was like, victory.
Yeah, you won.
And then that feeling of like, I set a small goal that I knew was within it was outside of reason, but within reach.
Yep.
Right. I was like, I stretched myself to the point where I got it. I was like, victory. And then I was like, okay, now 60.
Yeah.
Right. And then it feels good.
Momentum.
Yes. Then
That's
it feels
just momentum.
good. Then it feels good.
That's it.
So I think that with a lot of people, in terms of like perseverance, you might be setting goals that are way too far out of reach. And because you're so far away from it, like every step just feels like a fucking drag. Like if me and you had to walk to Mexico right now, that would not be fucking fun.
I'd kill myself.
But if we were to like, let's walk to the gas station and get a fucking Slurpee, I might do that.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Right.
like not that far away, but it's like, if
Right.
we can see the destination and it's not that far away, it makes us more motivated.
It's quantifying, like, well, okay, so let's take let's take this exact same thing you just said, and let's say that you're like, okay, walk to Mexico, right? And Mexico's super far.
Mhm.
Now, when you tell somebody, okay, cool, you're gonna hit $1 million in your business, it's like I wouldn't even start walking to Mexico right now because it feels so far away. I'm like, there's no fucking possible way I can get there. But if I said, Brian, if you get in your Lamborghini right now and you drive to Mexico, I'll give you $1 million. Would you?
100%.
Why?
Because I like fucking money.
But how would you get there still?
I drive
But how do you know how to get there?
by looking at a map.
Your GPS.
Yeah.
Right. Your phone, Siri.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but the reason that you're so confident that you could get to Mexico, even though you don't know all the steps to get to Mexico, your GPS tells you one step at a time. That's it. So it doesn't matter how far the goal out is, but you trust this GPS that all you need to do is listen to what it tells you to do right now in that moment. And then when you're ready for the next direction, it will come. That is why you get a coach. That is why you get somebody to lead you and guide you down your path. So you don't have to worry and panic about all of this shit. You just have to worry. Tell me what to do next and I will do it. Your intuition is your internal GPS. Your intuition is what tells you what is next and what is here. But when we go, I need to know all of the details of exactly how things are going to go before I take the first step. You never get anywhere.
You know, it's so fucking funny that you said your intuition is your internal guide. I was going to be like, you know what the ultimate GPS is? Your intuition.
Let's go.
But it's like, okay, so double entendre. Number one is if you are a fitness coach, personal trainer, leader that is getting other people to follow you and you are not following another person, you are by default
out of integrity.
Out of integrity.
Bam.
Right? Because if you can't follow direction and then you're expecting other people to pay you for your direction, like you're fucking baked.
Dude, back to that sales call I had this morning. Great guy. I'm pretty sure he's going to come on board, but we were talking, he's a wealth coach.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, I'm only making X amount of my money and I'm afraid to make this commitment because it's going to put a lot of pressure on my family. And I said, well, do you not see the incongruencies here with what you're selling and what you're acting as? If you're
selling wealth, acting as scarcity.
Exactly. You're in a poverty mindset and you're helping men achieve wealth. So it's not a block anywhere else but in yourself. So you're selling a transformation that you yourself are not walking through. When I say this a lot. If you're not the walking embodiment of the transformation that you're selling, then you're not.
I agree. Lead by example.
However, people love to have excuses to hate themselves. So they'll hear me say that and go, oh, shoot, I'm struggling, therefore I can't lead. I'm not perfect and I can't lead. And I say, well, do you preach perfection to your clients? No. Then shut the fuck up. Because the fact, like, there are things that I still struggle with in my own healing journey. There are things that I still struggle with in my business. There are still things that I struggle with in my leadership. And to think that, oh, I'm struggling, therefore I cannot lead
Yeah.
is just, it's honestly, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
It literally makes me so mad. It
Yeah.
is one of the laziest excuses because perfection doesn't exist. And so we'll use that as a safety net because I don't actually want to move forward.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. I want to come back to the intuition conversation that we had because I think it's important. I think so. At the start of the podcast, we talked about like Gary Vaynerchuk exists, and because he exists, he's a figurehead that I can strive to.
Right.
That is the ideal that I strive to, is to be one day fucking on stages as big as Gary Vaynerchuk and fucking bigger because I'm Brian Mark. What's up? That's the
Do
ideal.
you remember that was our first?
I
That
know.
was our first podcast we
I
ever had
know.
together.
I know it was. I know it was. I threw out my fucking note. That says
I remember that.
So that is the ideal to strive for. And I want to use that same analogy to paint this picture. The ideal that you should be striving for, coach, leader, mentor, is your intuition is your guide.
Yes.
That is the ideal to be striving towards. Your intuition is your guide. And that might sound hippy-dippy to you if you're just getting started. And that's fucking okay. Because my intuition tells me which mentors to hire. My intuition tells me what fires to make. My intuition tells me what content's going viral. My intuition tells me these things and I fucking listen.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this to go on that.
Yeah.
When your intuition says, hey, hire this mentor, and the mentor says like, oh, I'm $500,000 a month.
Yeah, dude, that's a good question. So I just hired another mentor. Her name is Adley.
You told me, yeah.
$105,000 US for 6 months. It's the most expensive mentor I've ever hired.
Yep.
She told me her price. She also said, oh, by the way, I have a group coaching program. So the group coaching program is $25K, but you don't get one-on-one with me. And so I considered both of the options. And like, no matter how rich you are, $100,000 US is a lot of that's a lot of fucking money. So I was like, fuck it, I'm fucking doing it.
Yeah, but so what I want to highlight here is that even at your level, even with the depth in which you developed yourself, your intuition still says, oh, go invest in this person. They give you the finances and you go, holy shit. Yeah, I still got to do it.
Yeah.
Because my intuition told me that this was it. And so we use money as an excuse to not move forward. And then we wonder why money doesn't come to us.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Money is a tool to develop ourselves as leaders and create wealth.
Dude, and here's the thing. Here's how I view. Thank you. That's literally what I was going to say. Money is a vehicle for me to get what I want. It is not something that I want to sit in my fucking bank account and not do anything. Like if you're not putting money out, how can you expect to get money in? It doesn't work like that.
Abundance is a portal.
Yes. It's like as much as going out as is coming in. It has to work like that. And I want to jump in for 1 second around this because I said that I was going to send her $100,000. And the reason that I did that is because the skill set that she was going to teach me was worth the investment that I was paying.
Facts.
And that's exactly why I fucking paid.
You have this. So, okay, two things on this. Number one, you said I was going to do it and I did it.
Yeah.
And you guys sign a contract or anything?
Nope.
Exactly. Because at this level, you don't even need them.
Yeah, you don't need to.
But at the lower level, when people come into like your program or my program,
you need to fucking sign a contract.
But here's the thing: is there's contracts, and then people try to back out of contracts, and they try to cancel, or they try to ghost you, and they try to dispute your bank. And I go, you realize that your fucking name is on this contract.
Yeah.
Does your name mean that little to you?
Yeah.
Does your name really not mean that much to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you wonder why you don't have trust. You wonder why you don't love yourself. You wonder why people aren't coming to you and trusting you. Like, look at how you're treating your own fucking commitments, your own fucking name. And you think people are going to come commit to you? Make that make sense for me. Paint me the picture. Doesn't exist.
Makes sense.
We are the walking reflection of our business. How I show up, how I invest in myself, all of that is going to dictate how people show up and invest in me. And so it's even the same thing of it's people having resistance to even talking about the fact that they work with somebody because they think it invalidates them in their journey.
Yeah.
It thinks it removes their authority. And they go, well, so say a business coach works for you. Because I know you work with business coaches. Yeah. And a business coach says, well, I don't want to post that I'm working with Brian because if people see that I'm working with Brian, they won't work with me and they'll just go work with Brian because that's who I'm working with. No, Brian is at a higher level than you because he's been doing this longer. So naturally, the people he works with has evolved with him. So you're perfectly fit to lead the people that are in alignment with where you currently are. It doesn't matter who you're working with. But if you refuse to speak and show people that you're walking the path and you're investing in yourself and you're having leadership, why would somebody fucking invest in you?
Agreed. I want to bring it back to let's bring it back to the initial question, which is,
how do you teach perseverance?
Can you teach perseverance?
Yeah.
Can you teach perseverance? Here's what I think. I think you can show it. You talk to it, and then I get
you asked me the question, and
then
you
I
say,
speak.
let me tell you.
Let me fucking tell you. Well, I think that perseverance is not a character trait that I can pass on to you.
Nope.
Perseverance is a character trait that must be developed from within.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. It's just like discipline.
Yeah.
Perseverance is a muscle that you can develop over time. It's not a skill that I can teach you. And the reason that I think it's imperative to have perseverance is because without perseverance, your life doesn't change. It stays the exact same. You end up with the same money in the same social circle with the same environment. Your kids are going to have the same life that you had growing up. And that to me is enough of a thought to do whatever is necessary to achieve success.
I think I just had a full circle moment.
Did you glitch?
Well, so hang on, because you say when you have that perseverance, it's like you give yourself no choice but to do the thing.
Yeah.
And if we look back to our further conversation, we said that once you fully fucking own your truth and you have conviction in it, everything moves. And you just, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering now if the truth and perseverance need to coexist at the same time. Can you have perseverance if you haven't fully accepted your truth? And then can you fully accept your truth and not have perseverance? Huh.
Keep going.
Well, because I think people lack perseverance because they're not fully embodied in their truth. Because if I see my truth, if I know my truth and I own that, I can keep referencing my truth as my orientation point of, well, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I'm living my life in the shadow and full of deceit and all of these creations of fears that I've made for myself, then perseverance can't exist because my fears will always win. Fears, by definition, are delusion. They don't exist. Anything that's not love isn't real. It's a fabrication of the ego. And so truth is love. We're lacking love in ourselves because we're not being honest and keeping our promises to ourselves. And if we can close those gaps, then perseverance just happens as a default.
And so,
Son of a bitch.
So, you know, but it's like,
I didn't even need a whiteboard for that.
No, it's if we think about, now I'm on the same page as you because I wasn't before, but now I am. Just to be clear.
Wow, thank you for sharing your truth.
Okay. But what you said is the same thing because you said truth and perseverance need to coexist. And that's literally the same conversation that we had at the start of the podcast, which is love. Like truth is love.
But that's what I'm saying.
Truth is love. And the way that you develop love is by developing trust. And so that truth and love are coexisting.
Okay. If I don't execute because I don't trust myself, and the reason because I don't trust myself, I don't love myself. If I love myself by developing and keeping promises to myself, then by nature, I will start being more honest with myself because you are honest with people that you trust.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not trustworthy in my own eyes, I will continue to withhold the truth from myself. And I will continue to live a lie. I will continue to build a life that is not meant for me because my vision is off. My vision is based off of a lie and a wrong perception. If my vision is wrong, I will always build the wrong business and I will always build the wrong life. So if I can get into my truth, by definition, when I accept my truth, I cast the vision that was meant for me. And everything that's a lie automatically removes because you can't unsee the truth.
See, I think
now I have no choice but to execute on that.
See, I think by the definitions that you're using, I think that the truth, my truth is like, what do I want is a part of my truth. And also like, who was I is a part of my truth. And who are the people that I grew up with? Like, that's all a part of my truth.
So now let me ask this. Can you actually get crystal clear on what you want in alignment without healing?
Well, no, because what you want would be predicated on, but that's a good question.
On wounds of the past.
Yes, but so like, here's an example. I think that yes, but also if I think back to my past, the reason that I like being rich is because I hated being in the trailer park. Right. So like that could be, I really wanted to be rich. So I think you can get success and vision without healing yourself. So are you fulfilled while you're doing it?
Well, then what's your definition of success if not fulfillment? Right?
Yeah.
Well, so I think the final leg of this is being able to accept your truth in the moment and not thinking that, oh, this is where everybody fucks up. This is my truth, but I don't want to make this choice because what if it changes down the road or it's wrong? And it's like, it's not a matter of if it's going to change, it's a matter of when it's going to change. Yeah. So if you can get Chris, like in the moment in that trailer park, when you said, fuck this, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to get, so that was your truth. That was you accepting it fully. Yeah. And then that led you to your next truth where you went, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Now I want to do this. Yeah. And that is the path of our Dharma. Our Dharma is our soul's deepest truth. Yeah. And by definition, Dharma is what leads us to wealth and abundance. Yeah. So truth, again, light. And so I think that we're just saying everything in the circle here. Damn. Yeah.
I want to talk to the person that's struggling right now. I want to talk to the person that's listening to this right now that has not been able to persevere. And I think that part of the truth is being honest with yourself in the sense of like, don't blame yourself or shame yourself or get angry at yourself because you haven't been putting in the fucking work. But instead, what I want you to do is realize that you're literally one step away. You're one day away. Like it's not that far away. And I think that's something that's helped me in the times where I feel like it's hard for me to see the future because I might be focusing on the past or it's hard for me to be consistent because the results aren't showing up, or it's hard for me to like just keep myself in the fucking arena. I just try to tell myself in those moments, like if you're really fucking struggling right now, I literally want you to know that you're 3 feet from gold.
Mhm.
You ever heard that story?
Yep.
The guy fucking had a gold farm and he's mining for gold,
And he
mining for
gave
gold, mining
up?
for gold. He's like, fuck it, I can't take it. Sold the farm. And then the guy that took over the farm, I forget, I think this is in Think and Grow Rich. The guy that took over the farm realized that there was like a seismic shift in the quake or in the earth. And so the guy was off by 3 meters. He went 3 meters the other way and fucking found gold.
Damn.
But I think that that is literally where every single person that's listening to this is at right now. You're this fucking close.
Mhm.
And again, we come back to the conversation at the start of this podcast where we talked about how only 5% of people will ever fully walk through the door. If you just make the decision that regardless of the emotion, regardless of how you feel, regardless of anything that's going on in your life or at any point, you are just going to keep showing up. You are just going to keep showing up and you're going to keep moving forward. I promise you, you will do more than 95% of people do in their lifetime.
Great.
Great.
I think my closing statement here is, and when I say I also mean you, but I really am the walking, living proof that you can change every fucking thing about your life if you just get super honest and you don't give up. I mean, Brian and I both grew up in trailer parks and have created incredible lives for ourselves. It's not because we're lucky. It's not because I don't even think it's because I have more grit than anybody else. I think it's just because I made the decision and I kept walking that path of the truth that was right for me in the moment. And my first 10 years as an entrepreneur were all fear-based, all trauma-based. And everybody knows my story. I almost killed myself because of it. I had a gun to my head. And only in the last few years that I actually really changed the trajectory of my life. And to see what I built in less than 3 years' time from that pivot is just incomprehensible to where I was. And even, a few weeks ago, I had this event in Austin and I gave a speech of finding your Dharma and how when you fully own your next truth, you feel it in your body, something shifts. And what was interesting is during that conversation, I went through all the business pivots that I've had, and I've had 23 different business pivots up until now. So I'm on 24. I'm on my Jordan, pivot.
Yeah.
But after I spoke that speech, I literally made a post about it. And I said, I just felt something shift in me this weekend.
Yeah.
And literally every single thing in my life moved in that day. Mountains moved, people left, people came, connections, everything. Just my entire life changed in one day because I spoke my truth, was convicted, and it felt it in my body and didn't try to disregard it.
Cool.
I just went, okay, this is what's next. And I think that if you can just keep doing that and recognize that even that truth is going to eventually change. My job is to be fully present where I am, find my truth, keep my promises to myself, and learn to love myself through my evolution process. Everything you could ever possibly want is right there.
Bars.
If you guys made it this far, make sure you guys take a screenshot, post it on your stories, tag me and Brian. Let us know what you liked it, what your biggest takeaway was. If you're on Brian's podcast, leave a 1-star review. If you're on my podcast, leave a 5-star.
Yo, if you're on my podcast, go subscribe to my boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn, you're really going to put me down like that?
Subscribe to my boy. All right. Go subscribe to my boy.
Yo, go subscribe to my man, Brian, over here.
Change Lives Make Money on the Trainer podcast and the Headstrong podcast.
Yes. Link will be in the description box below.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have the best day of your entire motherfucking lives, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at TheRealBrianMark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.